Okay, welcome everyone, and a pleasure to be here with you. Be'ezras Hashem, as we are sponsored by Baruch Ian, who is here with us live. Lili Nishmas Yaakov Chaim Ben Abba Estebas Yona Avram Shmuel HaKain L'Fui Shalema Feliva Basanya. We're sponsored by A.B. Spry. We're sponsored for the spiritual, emotional, and physical protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel Ben Beila Shendel Rivka. We're sponsored by Shalom Fogel, Lilinish Mas Yaakov Zeb Ben Yehuda Arya, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam Bas Gada, Yosef Ben Tzima Yaakov Zeb, for the Fui Shalema of Moshe Arya Ben Binyamin, and for a great Shidduch for Chai Tzivya Bas Shoshana Gittel. We're sponsored by Mark Frankel, in loving memory of his father, Yisrael Tzvi Ben Chaim Yeshua Falik, and we're sponsored by Berish Gesseman, L'Fui Shalema for Shoshana Bas Adina Chana. We learned for Chavar Adaf Aaron Ben Sarah, and Chavar Adaf Nachman Yaakov Ben Sarah, and also Dr. Guy took a fall yesterday. He is home, at least by one of his children, or by a sibling. We learned for Chavar Adaf Moshe Yaakov Alevi Ben Golda. He did have a fracture on his face. We should have a refuah shalema b'sech she'achel Yisrael. Okay, we are holding 2 lines from the bottom of Pei Zayin Amud Aleph. The Gemara, if you remember, we were talking about something that was in the ear space of the Mizbeach, but not on the Mizbeach. Is the ear space of the Mizbeach considered like it's on the Mizbeach, that it's magnetized to the Mizbeach? Who was it yesterday that said, but if you're standing on the Mizbeach, it should be like it's on the Mizbeach? Somebody said that yesterday.
Talking about Lovid yesterday.
Not love it, that was something else. No. But somebody said that yesterday, I forget who. But actually, the Gemara will say that. 2 lines from the bottom of Pei Zayin Amud Beis. 2 lines from the bottom of Pei Zayin Amud Beis. Lahaki Samir Tifshet. However, in the other way, we should be able to resolve in the other direction, the Aver Mizbeach Mizbeach, that the ear space of the Mizbeach is like it's on the Mizbeach. Dummy. So if you if you do Malika of a Chatas Oif, Malika's Chatas Oif Pesula, and the Malika, the din is that if you did Malika on a Chatas Oif and it became disqualified, how would that be? Very simple. The Chatas has to be Lishma. But you did the Malika Shalai Lishma. So the din is that the Mizbeach magnetizes it, and you continue to spray the blood on the Mizbeach. But wait a second. Heichi Maza Midama, how could you spray the blood where it's a disqualified Chatas Ha'if? Havale Yored. When you lift the bird up in order to spray it, it should be, if Ava Mizbeach is not like the Mizbeach, it should be considered like it's taken down, and you shouldn't be able to continue doing it. And for that matter, sharp sulim, other disqualified karbanas that you spray from the basin, from the mizrach, heichi zaraklu midama, says the Gemara, it's talking about where you never lift it off the Mizbeach, but you hold it to the side of the Mizbeach and apply the blood. The magalahu. And the same thing with when it's in the klei sharis, the blood, you hold it to the side of the Mizbeach. So the Gemara says, I'm sorry, that's not hazah. That's not spraying. That's pressing, which is not good by the Chatas Oif. And hazrika, and if you hold the basin next to it, is that throwing it. Shvichi, that's pouring it. Furthermore, you have to do the thing in the proper way. Is that the way to spray? Is that the way to throw it? So here the Gemara tells us, no. And this is what I told you. Somebody yesterday asked this question, and that is Amar Rav Ashi, when we talk about Avram Mizbeach Mizbeach, the airspace of the Mizbeach is not like if it is like the Mizbeach or not. It's not when you're holding something on top of the Mizbeach. If you're holding it, it's considered like it's on top of the Mizbeach because your feet are attached to the Mizbeach. So, and you're holding it. The Gemara says, the Nakalu Barosha Mizbeach Hachanami, everybody agrees that that's like it's on the Mizbeach. Our question is if you took something that was puzzle and you attached it to a spear and held the spear over the airspace of the Mizbeach, is that considered as if it's on the Mizbeach? Kika Amr de Talinu Bekanya, where you stuck it onto a reed and you held it over the Mizbeach, will that magnetize it that you could leave it there and not have to take it down? So on that, the Gemara says, well, we're going to have to leave that up to Elio. Teku tishbi ataretz kushus bibayis. Now, there are some gazan. There are two different types of measuring vessels in the Beis Hamikdash. There are measuring vessels for liquid measure, and then there are measuring vessels for dry measure. For dry measure, there's an isarein and a chatzi isarein, and then there's vessels for liquid measure. Now remember, once an item is put in a clay sharis, it gets a kedushas haguf. Once it gets a kedushas haguf, it can't be redeemed. Until it gets a kedushas haguf, if it becomes tamei, you could just redeem it. So the Mishnah now says klei alach, utensils that are for liquid, mekachin es alach, sanctify liquid, and umidas yavesh, measuring vessels for dry, mekachis es a yavesh, but not vice versa. Ein klei alach mekadeshes es a yavesh. If it's a liquid measure and you put dry in it, it's not mekadesh. It v'lo yavesh mekadesh es alach. Nor does a dry measure sanctify a liquid measure. Now, these clay shares, what happens if they become perforated? Klei hakodesh shenikvu, holy vessels that are perforated. If it doesn't impair its function, if the hole is small enough that it doesn't impede its function, if they could serve the function that they served when they were whole, mekachin, then they're mekadosh their contents. V'imlav, but if not, then they're defective and ain't mekachin. V'kulan ain't mekachin ela b'kodesh. A clay sharis, as holy as it is, only sanctifies when it's in the temple. If you put something in a clay sharis, but you're outside of the azara, it's not mekadosh. It's only mekadosh when you're in the azara. Now, there are measuring vessels, and then there are other vessels, like the basins. That we say liquid is mekadosh liquid and dry is mekadosh dry. Elamidos, that's only measuring vessels. Aval mizrikais, but the basins that catch the blood, mekachin, they're mekadosh even dry. How do we know? Because we see that shenem ashneim malayim soles. Both the mizrik echad shel kesef, the basin of silver, both the two of them, malayim solas, full of fine flowers. So we see that a mizrak, which usually contains blood, liquid, is mekadosh dry. It's mekadosh also flour. Says the Gemara, well, but over there the solus is mixed with oil. So what's the raya that it's mekadosh yavesh? It's moist. Amalei loy nitzricha el liyave sheba. It's even mekadosh the dry particles in the mixture. Some dry particles in the mixture. Or iba yisema, relative to liquid, the mincha is considered dry. It's all relative. Mincha legabe dam, mincha relative to blood is kiyavesh dami, and it's still mekadosh. Now, the klei shares, there is a klal which is going to be at the root of several things that we're going to learn now, and that's ein aniyas b'makom hashivas. There's no poverty in a place of wealth. The Beis Hamikdash is Hashem's place. Ein aniyas b'makom hashivas. I remember that we once had the privilege in my shul in Staten Island to host the executive vice president of the National Agudah, Rabbi Bloom. And I remember he spoke, it was one of the parshiyos about the Beis Hamikdash, and he said that what would the board that is in charge of the rights of disadvantaged people, what is that called? There's another name for disadvantaged, wheelchair bound and disabled people. What would they say that the Beis Hamikdash didn't allow a balmum to do the avodah? It would sound like very big discrimination. A balmum can't do the avodah? So he said, I remember because he was talking about the Agudah convention, that at the time to go for a weekend, the Agudah convention was from Thursday to Sunday, was $1,800. And he said, here the Agudah preaches that people shouldn't be ostentatious, and they make a weekend for $1,800. It sounds like hypocrisy. So he said that the Agudah convention is the stage for the Gedolei Yisrael. The stage for the Gedolei Yisrael, because that's where Klal Yisrael came to see the Gedolei Yisrael. The Moitzes Gedolei HaTorah in Eretz Yisrael in Europe. The stage for the Gedolei Yisrael has to be perfect. Has to be a shining stage. The Beis Hamikdash was the stage for the Shekhinah. It had to be perfect. And therefore, there could not be anything, any kind of poverty or an allusion to cheapness and stinginess in the Beis Hamikdash. So therefore, Amar Shmuel, Amar Shmuel, Klei Shares ein mekatchen ela shleimen. A Klei Shares only sanctifies if it's whole. If it's damaged, it doesn't sanctify. Ein mekatchen ela malayin. It's only mekadesh, it doesn't have to be full to the top. It's only mekadesh if it has its full contents in it. That means if you're supposed to use an isaron, it's only mekadesh if you put in an isaron. A mekatchen ela mitoichen. It's only mekadesh from the interior. That means if something is sitting on the rim, it's not going to become kaddish. V'imrei la, there's another version. A mekatchen ela shleimen, only if it's intact. Umaleyen, if you have the full contents. Umibifnim, and you're in the Azara, you're in the Beis Hamikdash. Outside, it's not mekadesh. My beinayu, well, according to the first version, it also has to be in the interior. Ike beinayu beirutze midos, the rims, the overture, the heap would not become holy according to the first version because it's only mekadesh the interior. B'masnisa tana in a brayse it says all four. B'masnisa tana a mekatchin ela shleimen. It's only mekadesh if it's whole. Umalayim if you have the full contents. Umetoichen if it's in the interior. Ubifnim and if it's in the azara.
And if you bought a half amount of katayrus that you didn't have the full amount that you're allowed.
Well, then it wouldn't be Mekadosh.
That half amount wouldn't be cut.
No.
Ow.
Now, that's why they kicked you out.
Not because I'm not a kite.
You tell them.
Yeah, that was only after they found that out.
Okay.
Now, Amar Rav Asi, Amar Reb Yochanan, Lo yishanu ela she'ein daitei lo hosef. In other words, when do we say that it's not Mekadosh if you don't have the full contents? That's if you only plan to put in half the contents. Aval daitei lo hosef, but if you're putting it in slowly and you have a mind to put in the full contents, then rishon kodesh. Every bit becomes sanctified right away. And Tanya Nami Hachi Malayan in only if it's the full contents. Ein Malayan ela shleiman. It means the complete contents, but what does that mean? If you only had a mind to put in part, then it doesn't become sanctified. But if you're slowly putting in the full contents, then rishon kodesh, then it becomes kodesh as you are putting it in. Ein klei alach mekadesh. Now here again, the Gemara gives us a qualification. We said that if you put dry in a liquid measure, it doesn't become holy. It doesn't become holy to be able to be put on the mizbeach, but it does become holy to be disqualified. In other words, it's holy enough that if you take it outside, it's possible b'yotzei. It's just not holy that you should be able to put it on the mizbeach. Amar Ravi, same Ravasi, aim mekachin likarev. It's not holy all the way to offer it up on the mizbeach. Aval mekachin lipasel, but it is holy enough that it gets a kedusha that if you take it outside, it's possible b'yotzei. Now, ikin masla ha. Some say this same qualification on a different teaching. You know, you can't bring menachas, you can't bring bikurim, except min hamuter beficha, except from ingredients that are mutter to everyone. I can't bring a mincha unless it's mutter even to Barry. So I can't bring it from truma, because Barry's not allowed to eat truma, he's not a kohen. I can't even bring it from meduma, which is a mixture of chulin and truma, because a non-kohen can't eat that. So now the Gemara says, ein meviyim menachas, you can't bring a meal offering, a nesachin, or libations, or minchas behema, or the mincha that accompanies an offering, or bikurim, or first fruit, min hameduma, from a mixture of truma and chulin, because a mixture of truma and chulin, Yisrael is not allowed to eat. Ve'ein tzarich leimer me arla v'klei karav, of course not from arla, the first 3 years of klei karav, mixture of a vineyard and other produce, which is also to everybody. V'im hevi, and if you do bring it, lo kidesh, it doesn't become sanctified. Says the Gemara, it doesn't become sanctified that you should be able to offer it up. Amar Rav Yisem Rav Asi like Kodesh Likarev, Aval Kodesh Lipasel, but it does become holy that to the point that if you take it out, it becomes possible b'yotzei, and you have to burn it. Now let's go back to how perfect it has to be in the Beis Hamikdash. Tan Rabbanan.
Can I have it put in a name for tonight?
You most certainly can.
Avram Ben Tzvi.
Avram Ben Tzvi, the Shama should have an aliyah. There was a very big save last night. Was that in your game?
A big what?
A save, a hockey save? That was
Oh yeah, a couple of them.
Somebody made an incredible save, they said.
Yeah, it probably was. We were all watching when we saw it.
Yeah. Anyway, don't worry, I don't have a little screen over here.
I I'm not sure about that.
It's all over.
I used to have it. Irving used to set them up. Somebody came to the shir. It looked funny. I had 4 little televisions on my desk. Remember that, Irving?
You're watching all the games at the same time, giving the share?
This was before the internet. Before the internet, there was something called 8x8 video.
It went through the phone line.
It went through the phone lines. Do you know that I finished Shas with Cherry Hill, New Jersey, with 8x8 video? Rabbi Rothman in Cherry Hill, we finished Shas with Cherry Hill, New Jersey, using that apparatus. I remember, from Masechta Shabbos to Masechta Shabbos. Reuven, you remember that? Yeah, it was. We set it up every night. It was. Also, we had a hookup to Memphis. We had a hookup to Muncie, and for a while we had a hookup to California. I don't know if you remember, we had somebody, Don, from California, that came for a Shalashudis in the shul. He used to, it was from Fresno, California. We had a hookup to Fresno, California. Wow, that's a long time ago. Wow.
That's our Matzah Torah.
That's a long time ago. Barry, you don't even remember that, right? It's before Barry's time.
Harry doesn't remember what he had for breakfast this morning.
Shimon, do you remember?
No, it was.
Shimon does remember. Shimon does remember.
I moved in 25 years ago. I do remember. I think that Don was from. He watched from when you gave the share at the Agud in Borough Park, right?
Yes.
And Cherry Hill.
Well, we kept on switching. It depended. It was a very big job. It was a very big job. It
required a lot of setup.
A lot of setup. You know who gets a lot of credit to that setup, and you could tell him that I gave him an honorable mention, is Lenny Lowenthal. Lenny Lowenthal did a lot of the setup.
I think you had 4 or 5 different.
Yeah, Irving did some of the setup. Yeah.
Wasn't other different phone numbers? Don's last name was Kirshner. No, Don Kirshner.
No.
The old producer. Know what I'm talking about.
Now, Tana Rabbanan, clay kodesh shenikvu, a holy vessel that was perforated and will ad lib, and you can't use it anymore in the same way that you were able to use it. Ein matichenoisa, you can't smelt it, melt it that the hole should close up. Ve'ein matichen l'soichai aver, nor can you melt into it lead in order to repair it. Because all of this is considered a cheap way of doing things to save money, and ein aniyas b'makam ashiras. Nifkamu, if it got damaged, ein mesaknenoisa, you don't fix it. Sakin shenifkam, if a knife got a very bad pigima, it got a very bad nick in it, ein mashchizen es pigima, so we don't sharpen it in order to even it out. Even nishmita, even if the blade got removed from the handle, ein machziranoisa, we don't glue it back in. We got a new knife. There was this knife that made a lot of trefus in the base of Mikdash. It seemed to develop very small nicks. The Kohanim voted and said, look, it's ruining, it's mafsid kachim, v'ganzua, and they hit it. They stopped using it.
Why did they vote on it? Why did you just look at it and say, put it away? Why?
Well, because you also have to have respect for items of Kedusha.
What's
It's
not respectful about it? It's not.
Why didn't they bury it?
what? Because
So why didn't they just bury it?
that's what they did. They hid it away.
No.
No, but what Ruvain is asking is, what's the big deal? Just it's causing problems. What do you have to vote on it? The answer is that's the tightrope. Ein aniyas b'makom ashiris, but it's also mum and tzibur. It's the money of the tzibur, and you have to be careful. Maybe it's okay. Maybe you don't have to hide it. So they had to decide if it really was a menace.
I didn't mean it as such a big deal, but I just, like, I didn't mean it as a big deal. It's a big deal.
Tana Rabbanan. You understand my answer?
Yeah, you have to have a respect for it, because to understand that there's money involved here.
Right. Tana Rabbanan. Big day kahuna, the garments of kahuna, it's not made out of needlework. Ela maisa oirig, it's woven. Shenema maisa oiriv. Nizgalu, if it becomes dirtied, ein mechapsin loy beneser v'loy ba'ohel. We don't wash it with the detergent of niter or aloes. If it becomes so dirty, then we don't use it anymore. We get new ones. Haba mayim mechapsin. So the Gemara says, but with water you could wash it? I mean, but these detergents wash it better. So what does that mean? If it only is slightly soiled, that you could wash it with water, so then mechapsin, I say, then we clean it. But if it's so dirty that you would need niter and ohel and aloes, then you don't even clean it with water. You discard it and get fresh ones. Then hugul and neser v'ohel, then afamayim ein mechapsin. What?
Where did you wash it? You allowed to take it out?
Yeah, you could take it out. V'yeshaimim, and some say, ein mechapsin oisan kol iker. You can't wash it at all. In other words, once it gets soiled, now it doesn't mean minimal, but once it gets soiled, they got fresh ones. She'ein aniyas b'makom ashiris. There's no poverty in a place of wealth. Tan Rabbanan, me'il, the robe that the Kohen Gadol wore, kuloi shel tchelasaya. It was completely turquoise. It was completely of the bluish dye. Shenema vayases me'il ha'ephod, the mill of the ephod was kolel tchelas, complete out of the bluish dye. Shulav ketzad, now it had an elaborate hem. On its hem was a alternating pomegranate decorations and bells that actually rang, that had a clapper inside it. So the Gemara now gives us a little bit of information about the hem of the me'il of the Kohen Gadol. Shulav ketzad, maybe tchelas v'agam v'tolah shani, they brought the blue, the purple, and the scarlet. Shazurin spun, each thread was spun of 12 strands. V'oisen I said come in remainim, and they made like a pomegranate shape. Shaloi pitku piem, like pomegranates that didn't yet open their mouth on the tree. O kamin kainai shel knasai shebarashi tinaikis. Children used to wear helmets, and the pomegranates looked like the cone on the top of the helmet. You know, you see that even in pictures of soldiers, they had helmets with little cone shapes on the top of them. So that's the way the pomegranate looked. Or maybe Shivim Ushnayim Zogin, they brought 72 bells. Shebehem Shivim Ushnayim in Berlin, and each of the 72 bells had a clapper inside it. V'toila behen, and they suspended them on the hem. Shloishim Mishisha B'tzad Zeh, 36 on one side. V'shloishim Mishisha B'tzad Zeh, and 36 on the other side. Rabbi Daisayim and Mishim Rabbi Yehuda, Shloishim Mishisha Ayud. There was a total of 36. Shmayna Esrei Mitzad Zeh, 18 on one side. Shmayna Esrei Mitzad Zeh, and 18 on the other side. Now this discrepancy of whether 72 or 36, we find also by Tzaras. Amar Rabbi Yonei bar Sosain, kemachloikis kan, like kemachloikis here, kach machloikis b'maros negoim. There's also machloikis by leprosy. The Tanan maros negoim, how many different appearances of leprosy are there? Rabbi Daisa ben Hirkin is Lamed Vav, 36. Akavi ben Malalai Meshivim Mishnaim, that's 72. Amar Rabbi Yonei bar Sosain, this is a very famous Gemara. the clothing of the Kohen Gadol, which of course the Kohen Gadol was a national ambassador of Klal Yisrael. The clothing of the Kohen Gadol had national atonement powers. It's one of the things that when we say at the end of Shemona Esrei, Yiratzim Ufanecha Hashem Elokeinu Elokei Aviseinu She'ibana Beis Hamikdash B'meira V'yameinu, because we're lost out on all of these atonement powers. The Gemara tells us, Lama Nismecha Parshas Karbanos Parshas Bigdei Kehuna. Why is the parsha of Karbanos put in juxtaposition to the parsha of the Bigdei Kehuna? Everybody knows that Karbanos come for atonement, the Chatas, the Oshim, the Oila, we all know it comes for atonement. Bigdei Kehuna mechapen. Also, the 8 garments worn by the Kohen Gadol have national kapara power for Klal Yisrael. And before I reveal this to you, I should welcome everybody in. As we welcome in Saba, Eddie Chazan, Yaakov Warman, Yisrael Fisher, Amy Spry, Michal, Mo Kushner, Marshall Castle, who is a little bit lonely tonight, Yitzi Fuchs, Rabbi Kran, Shimon Klein, Shelley Zeitlin, Barry Cement, Ruvain Pollack, Itchy, Dr. Black, Ben Cian Cohn, Dr. Udell, Irving Fishbaum, Nachman Chapler, Dr. Guy. Oh, Dr. Guy is back. Welcome back. Moshe Lehman, Yitzi Muller, Ilya Shutman, Avram Rezepkowitz, Abe Arbach, and here in the shul we have Gedalia Engel, who has one of the longest trips to come to the shul. Traffic was light, okay, and no tolls, right? No tolls. Yeah, you see, Rabbi said, I'm 2 valley stream, and Gedalia is 1 valley stream. So he really, it's the gridlock that gets him.
It's a lot longer than it sounds.
Yeah, yes, it is. It is. He can't roll out of bed and come here. I have a shorter commute. Chaim Kramer, Michal Avram, Danny Vogel, Ruvain Shannon, Baruch Ian, and Reb Elia Yaffe. Boy, we can't seem that elusive minion, you know. It's really something. It's really something. It just eludes us. So we're going to get there. We're going to get there. Berish is retiring, so he's going to be here every night. So and I mean, he's still going to work a little bit from home, but he's going to be with us much more often now, and we have to get some more people to come down. Now with flights get cheaper, Baruch could come more often. Right? The flights are cheaper. Yeah.
Good wish. I'll be there. Bezos Hashem.
What do you say?
It's $25 a night. I'll be there.
By the way, you're invited for the Hanukkah party on Monday night.
What? This is the first I'm hearing of.
There's a Hanukkah party in the shul at 6:30 Monday night.
Okay.
I'll bring Romanian.
You could bring Hungarian.
I'll bring Polish.
Yes, but everybody who's in the area, like Eddie, is more than invited. Okay, so how are the Bigdei Kehuna mechaper? So now the Gemara goes through all 8 of them. Ksainas, the tunic, is mechaperes al shvichas dam. It's mechaper for murder. Now this is not talking about the murderer himself. This is talking about the community's responsibility. We have a collective responsibility of people's behavior. Shenemar vayishchatu. This is this week's parsha. Vayishchatu seir izim. They slaughtered a goat. Vayitpalu es haktoines bedam, and they dipped Yosef's tunic in the blood. So you see, that there's a juxtaposition between the tunic and blood. Michnasayim, pants, mechaperes al gila aroyas, is mechaper for immorality. Shnema va'asal lahem michnasei vad, they made tunics of linen, lechasois besar erva, to cover the nakedness. So there's a juxtaposition between the tunic and immorality. Mitznefes, the hat, is mechaperes al gasei ruach, is mechaper for arrogance. Minayin, Rab Chanina Yavar Dover Shebegaiva, let the hat worn up high come vichaper al gaiva, and atone for thoughts of arrogance, of haughtiness. Avnate, the belt is mechaper al hirhure alev. The belt is mechaper for the sins of the heart. You see, the belt was wrapped parallel the elbows, which is by the heart, under the heart. So it's mechaper al hirur alev. Also in Vayikra Rabbah it says that the belt was 32 amas long, and of course 32 is b'gematria alev. So the avnate was mechaper for sins of the heart.
What's the difference between sins of the heart and arrogance?
The sins of the heart include hatred. Sins of the heart include bearing a grudge. Sins of the heart include vengeance. A lot of sins of the heart.
So wait a second, does the person have to do tshuva, or does this automatically just...
No, this is just for peripheral responsibility. In other words, if at my shir, somebody like Marshall does something dastardly, so I could be held accountable because I didn't have enough hashpah on him. So it's a peripheral atonement.
Why do I get all the special treatment?
If it's so, the avnate was so long, it was so long, 32 hours.
Yeah, it was wrapped around a lot.
Wrapped around a
Yeah.
lot of times.
Yeah.
So this is for the whole Jewish people?
That's
Yes.
64 feet.
National.
National. Is it happening right now? Like we're learning this, is this happening right now?
Well, it helps. It helps. So I'll hear Alev Heichadi say where the avnate is. Chayshin, the breastplate with the 12 precious stones on it. Mechaper al adinim. Mechaper for mistaken judgment. Shenema vasisa chayshin mishpat, and you should make a chayshin which is connected to law. Ephod, the apron is mechaper al avodas kechavim. It's mechaper on idolatry. Shenema ein ephod utrafim. If there's no ephod, then we have problems with trafim, with idols, because the ephod was mechaper on idols. Me'il, the cloak is mechaper al lashon hara, for the sin of lashon hara. Menayin, Rab Chanina Yover Dover Shebekel, as we said, the me'il had bells and it made noise. V'chaper al kol hara, let it atone for evil noise. In other words, again, this week's parasha of Vayover Yosef Dibasim Royal Aviyam. V'tzitz, and the golden plate that the Kohen wore on his forehead was mechaper al azis meitzach, was mechaper for brazenness. V'tzitz ksiv v'hoya al meitzach Aaron, it should be on the forehead of the Aaron, or ba'azis panim, by brazenness, ksiv v'meitzach isha zoyna hayelach. And they had like the brazen forehead of a harlot. Says the Gemara, wait a second. The me'il is mechaper on lashon hara? Ini v'am Rabbi Shimon Levi shnei dvarim loy matzinu lehem kapara b'karbanas. Two sins we don't find the kapara by offerings. Matzinu loy kapara m'mokam achar. And we find an atonement elsewhere. Ve'eluhein shvikas damim v'lashon hara. Murder and lashon hara. Shvichas damim me'egla rufa. Shvichas damim, murder, there's an atonement from the heifer that we break the heifer's neck. And lashon hara, there's atonement miktaris. The Tani Rab Chanina minayin l'ktaris shemechaperes. How do we know that the ktaris atones? Shenema v'yitein es ktaris, and he put the incense v'chaper ala'am. Moshe Rabbeinu put the incense and it was mechaper for the people. V'tanu debei Rabbi Yishmael al ma k'teris mechaperes. What is the k'teris atone for? Al lashon hara. Why? Because the k'teris is given in secret. The k'teris is done inside the kodesh in the mizbech, on the mizbech hazav. Now, not many people get inside the kodesh. So yavai davar shebechashay. Let that which is done in secret. V'chaper al ma'aseh chashay, and atone for that which is done. That which is done in secret, right? Right. So we have kasha lashon hara. Here it says lashon hara is from the me'il, and here it says it's from the k'tairis. Kasha shvichas damim ma shvichas damim. Here it says shvichas damim is from the sinus, from the tunic, and here it says it's from the egla rufa. So Gemara says no, it's not shver. Both are not shver. Shvichas damim ma shvichas damim like kasha hadi yada. Where do we say that the where do we say that the Egla Rufa is mechaper on murder? That's where do we say that the Ksainis is mechaper on murder? That's where we know the murderer. Hadi Yodaman Kotley. The Egla Rufa is mechaper when it's an unsolved homicide. Hadi Lo Yadiyaman Kotley. Says Gemara, if we know the murderer, then the community expiates its obligation by executing him. Idi Yoda Man Kotley Bakatalu. If we know who killed him, then he's a Bakatala. Says the Gemara, B'mezid v'lo yasubeh. It's talking about where he did it b'mezid, but there was no warning, so we couldn't execute him. Or it could be talking about where there was one witness, so we can't execute him. Lashon hara nami l'kasha. Lashon hara is also not shver. Ha b'tzina. If it's done privately, so that it's mechaper with the k'tairis, that's b'chashay. If it's public lashon hara b'farhesia, there is the kapara of the me'il. Hadr alach hamizbeach mekadesh. Hadr alach hamizbeach mekadesh. Hadr alach hamizbeach mekadesh. Rabbi say, I want you to remember that Matzah Shabbos shir is 7:30, a special time. This Matzah Shabbos, please, Shelley, if you could put it up. And some people might not know. Special shir.
I'll put it up on Shabbos.
Yeah, Matzah Shabbos because of. Well, put it up already tonight. Because somebody else might not see it Matzah Shabbos. Put it up tonight. Shir is Matzah Shabbos 7:30 because I have a big shir in Tom's River about Hanukkah, and now we're going to learn for the Shabbos table. Yes.
I'll sponsor the Hanukkah party.
Oh, all right. We have a sponsor for the Hanukkah party. Excellent.